I really enjoyed the show, or the first 2 episodes is what I've seen so far. Carlton Views really so gripping. I mean, you have such a great eye for a story. What for you makes a show successful? In other words, what makes you as a producer find a story and think, okay, this one has to be told?
I just think it's a gut thing. I kind of learned earlier in my career that kind of overthinking that decision-making process wasn't good. I used to try to be much more kind of rational about it. Now it's just visceral and emotional. And I read Sherry Fink's book and I was like, wow, this is an incredible story. And it's not a story that I knew. I mean, I'd watched Katrina coverage on the news, but like getting inside it the way Sherry did and seeing what these characters had to go through was just something that was incredible. And I was like, I really want to tell this story on the screen. And I just had to outweigh a couple of producers and options before I finally could convince Sherry to give John Ridley and I the rights.
So do you find as a storyteller, when you watch the news or see stories or read books that interest you, that you instantly kind of begin to imagine them on kind of cinematic terms and how they could be translated in the show?
I think what happens is that does the story kind of keep working in my brain? So if I read something or watch something, am I still thinking about it a day later, 2 days later, 3 days later? And if it starts to do that kind of level of percolating in my brain, I'm like, okay, this is something that's, I think, worthy to consider translating to the screen. So it's just, does it get inside me in a way? And I think that's just a very subjective experience. But I think for my artistic process, that's kind of what has to happen.
I mean, one thing I took away from this, I'm sure as many people will, is just that these kind of the nurses and doctors, just in general, are just superheroes. I just did making this show give you a sort of newfound appreciation of what they do and what they sacrifice. I know in the wake of sort of COVID and everything that's happened, we've all become more sort of in tune with the work they do and more appreciative. I'm just wondering if making this show had a similar effect.
It really did. I mean, the fact is we were making this in the middle of the pandemic. We were in Canada because there was less COVID there. We had rented out a hospital. We were all isolated. Everybody had to lock down for 2 weeks just to get into Canada. The border was closed. We couldn't go to restaurants. They were closed. Like we were in this little bubble, trying to stay safe, trying to tell a story about medical people who were, in an isolated bubble of their own in this hospital in New Orleans. So there was incredible resonance. And I think it's hard to tell, it's hard to not be incredibly appreciative for doctors and nurses and healthcare workers, and what they did, what they did during the pandemic and what they did during Katrina is just, it's kind of unfathomable, and that's what we tried to show. We tried to show a little bit about what it's like to kind of be in that environment and in that world and trying to help people and trying to make decisions that are going to be in the best interests of people. And and I think we all had a new level of appreciation for that because of what we were going through personally.
Well, thank you so much for your time. So much appreciated.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys.
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey, you guys!